What held it all together was the king's magic ability as a god to come up year after year with an inundation of the Nile and to know exactly how high the waters would go. Of course, it wasn't magic, it was his astronomers. They observed that one particular star, Sirius, rises just before dawn on one particular day, the 17th of July, every year. And that day is one day before the flood begins. They also saw that, on average, the flood itself came once every 365 days. Now, you put those two facts together, the star before dawn and the flood, and you've got yourself a calendar. And with a calendar, you can organize people. You can give them a date to do something on. And as for the king's ability to predict how high the water would go, well, you record the level of the flood every year with a scratch on the wall. And after a while, your experience will tell you early on how high the water is going to be later. Now, in Egypt, where water is life, that kind of knowledge and ability to control gives you the power to build empires. These are the great ancient temples of Karnak, on the edge of the Nile, about 450 miles south of Cairo. They were the center of Egyptian religion, built in the imperial city of Thebes when the Egyptian empire was at its height, the greatest power in the world. This was the New York of the time. The temples were built over a period of about 2,000 years, each pharaoh adding his bit, leaving his name in stone to last forever. Inside the temple domain, there were 65 towns, 433 gardens and orchards, 400,000 animals, and it took 80,000 people just to run the place. Small wonder that centuries afterwards, the Greeks and the Romans came here and gawped like peasants at a civilization that made their efforts look like well-dressed mud huts. It still has that effect today. You come here from the great modern cities, full of the immense power of modern technology. At your fingertips, press a button, turn a switch, and this place stops you dead. And then, just when you think you've got the measure of Karnak, you come here, at dawn, to the Hall of Columns, one of the most massive structures ever built. And anything I was going to say isn't enough. Look at it. The Egyptians built an empire and ran it with a handful of technology, the wheel, the irrigation canals, the loom, a calendar, pen and ink, some cutting tools, simple metallurgy, and the plough, the invention that triggered it all off. And yet look how complex and sophisticated their civilization was, and how soon it happened after that first man-made harvest. The Egyptian plough, and those of the few other civilizations that sprang up around the world at the same time, gave us control over nature, and at the same time tied us for good to the things that we invent so that tomorrow will be better than today. The Egyptians knew that. That's why they had gods, to make sure their systems didn't fail. Karnak was the first great statement of what technology could do with unlimited manpower and the approval of the gods. Ironically, the modern equivalent lies again in the desert. This time, the nomads also settled by a river of oil. But what it took the pharaohs 4,000 years to build took the Kuwaitis 4,000 days. What's happened in Kuwait, the change from a nomadic existence to being able to buy and use everything modern technology has to offer, has come in much less than one generation. Kuwait represents the immense power of technology used in a way most of us have never experienced, because we've lived with the kind of change it can bring for more than 100 years. Here, it's been focused. Change has been instant and total. Kuwait has suddenly become like New York or any other of the great urban islands of technology, totally dependent on that technology. Like them, without it, Kuwait would return to the desert.
Hello, Michelle? Hi, how are you? Hey, listen. I'm coming to spend my Christmas in New York, okay?
You see how increasingly the only way we in the advanced industrial nations with our bewildering technology network can survive is by selling bewilderment and dependence on technology to the rest of the world. Or is it not bewilderment and dependence, but a healthier, wealthier, better way of living than the old way? And yet, whether or not you dress up technology to look local, the technology network is the same. And as it spreads, will it spread the ability to use machines as we do without understanding them? Somebody said a few years ago about the way our modern world affects us all, if you understand something today, that means it must already be obsolete. Or to put it another way, never have so many people understood so little about so much. So why are we in this position? Why is our modern industrialized world the way it is, and not some different way, with different technology, doing different things to us? Well, that's what the rest of this series is going to look at. You saw just now that the plough and irrigation kicked us all off, and that an invention acts rather like a trigger, because once it's there, it changes the way things are, and that change stimulates the production of another invention, which in turn causes change, and so on. Why those inventions happened between 6,000 years ago and now, where they happened and when they happened, is a fascinating blend of accident, genius, craftsmanship, geography, religion, war, money, ambition. Above all, at some point, everybody is involved in the business of change, not just the so-called great men. Given what they knew at the time, and a moderate amount of what's up here, I hope to show you that you or I could have done just what they did, or come close to it. Because at no time did an invention come out of thin air into somebody's head, like that. You just had to put a number of bits and pieces that were already there together in the right way. Following the trail of events from some point in the past to a piece of modern technology is rather like a detective story, with you as the detective, knowing only as much as the people in the past knew, and like them having to guess at what was likely to happen next. So, the trigger that sets off the first of those detective stories is that. And I'd like to leave you with one question before next time. Why does a modern invention that fundamentally affects the lives of every single human being on this planet begin 2,600 years ago with somebody doing this?